Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the base of a mountain. It's January 1st, 2026. The air is crisp, the sky is wide, and you are filled with that intoxicating, shimmering energy we call potential. You have your list, you have your coffee, you have a version of yourself in your head that finally gets it all right. But now, fast forward just 19 days. It's mid-January. The mountain hasn't moved, but your legs are heavy. The new you feels a lot like the old you, just more tired. Statistically, this is the graveyard of dreams. Most people abandon their transformations before the first month of the year is even over. Why? Is it a lack of discipline? A lack of heart? According to the philosophy of give yourself 90 days, the problem isn't your willpower, it's your calendar. We try to change our entire lives in a weekend, or we set goals that are so far in the future an entire year away that our brains lose the scent of the hunt. We fall into the fresh start effect trap, believing that a change in date automatically triggers a change in character. It doesn't. This book proposes a different architecture for human evolution. It suggests that the most profound psychological and physical shifts don't happen in a day, and they don't require a year. They happen in a 90-day window. This is the Goldilocks zone of high performance, a time frame long enough to see the visible compounding of your efforts, but short enough that the finish line never disappears from the horizon. In this deep dive into the 90-day mindset reset, we are going to explore 3 core themes that define the modern struggle for self-mastery. First, the biochemistry of focus. How to reclaim an exhausted brain from the dopamine loops of 2026. Second, identity architecture. The art of shifting who you are rather than just what you do. And third, systemic resilience. Building a life where your environment pulls you toward your goals so your willpower doesn't have to. We aren't just looking for a temporary spark. We are looking to build a fire that sustains itself. As we move through this journey, I want you to set aside the all-or-nothing mentality that has stalled you in the past. We are here to investigate the mechanics of a seasonal reset, a way to reclaim your time, your energy, and your sense of agency in a world that is designed to take all 3 away from you. Let's begin the climb. Chapter 1. The myth of the new you. How many times have you looked in the mirror at the end of a long, exhausting year and promised the person staring back that everything was about to change? We treat January 1st, or even just the start of a new month, like a magical portal. We believe that by simply stepping through the door of a new date, we can leave behind our procrastination, our insecurities, and our bad habits like an old, tattered coat. But as the clock strikes midnight, we often forget one terrifying reality. You are the same person at 12:01 a.m. that you were at 11:59 p.m. This is the psychological phenomenon known as the fresh start effect. It's a trick our brains play on us. We create a temporal landmark, a line in the sand that separates our past self from our future self. And while these landmarks provide a massive burst of initial motivation, they are also incredibly dangerous. Why? Because they are built on a foundation of self-rejection. We aren't trying to grow. We are trying to escape, and you cannot outrun a shadow and give yourself 90 days. The core argument is that the new you doesn't exist as a destination you arrive at. It's a biological and psychological evolution that requires a very specific time frame to take root. If you try to change everything in a week, you'll burn out. If you give yourself a year, you'll procrastinate because the deadline feels like an eternity away. But 90 days. 90 days is the Goldilocks zone. It's 13 weeks. It's roughly 2,160 hours. This is the exact amount of time needed for the brain to stop resisting a new behavior and start automating it. The science of the seasonal pivot. Think about the seasons of the earth. Nature doesn't try to go from the dead of winter to the heat of summer in a single afternoon. There is a transitioner, slow, methodical thawing. Our psychology works the same way. When we commit to a 90-day reset, we are essentially aligning our personal growth with the natural rhythm of a quarter. In the corporate world, businesses run on K1, K2, K3, and Q4. They do this because a year is too long to maintain a single focus without losing data or momentum. They need to pivot. They need to reflect. They need to reflect. They need to see results. Why should your life be any different? By adopting a 90-day window, you stop looking at your life as a marathon with no end in sight and start looking at it as a series of intense, high-focus seasons. This approach solves the urgency gap. When you have 365 days to get fit or write a book, your brain whispers, "We have plenty of time. We can start tomorrow." But when you have 90 days, the clock is audible. Every week represents nearly 8% of your total time. Suddenly, a Tuesday afternoon isn't just a Tuesday, it's a critical block of your seasonal mission. The psychology of neural pruning. To understand why 90 days is the magic number, we have to look at what's happening inside your skull. Every habit you currently have, the way you reach for your phone the moment you wake up, or the way you reach for sugar when you're stressed, is a literal, physical highway in your brain. These are neural pathways, reinforced by years of repetition. When you try to start a new you are essentially trying to build a brand new road through a dense jungle. The first few days are brutal. You're hacking through vines, the ground is uneven, and every part of your old brain is screaming at you to go back to the paved highway, even if that highway leads to a cliff. Research in neuroplasticity suggests that while it might take 21 days to start a habit, it takes roughly 66 to 90 days for that habit to reach automaticity. This is the point where the new road is finally paved. This is the point where you no longer need willpower to do the thing. You feel a slight internal friction if you don't do it. The myth of the new you fails because it assumes willpower is the engine of change. It isn't. Willpower is just the jumper cables used to start the engine. The engine itself is systemic repetition. By committing to 90 days, you aren't promising to be perfect. You are promising to stay in the jungle long enough for the path to clear. The danger of the identity gap. There is a deeper reason why our resolutions fail, and it's a concept called the identity gap. This is the distance between who you think you are and the actions you are trying to perform. Imagine two people trying to quit smoking. When offered a cigarette, the first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." The second person says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." Do you see the difference? The first person still identifies as a smoker who is currently struggling against their nature. The second person has shifted their identity. The new you myth focuses on the outcome: quitting smoking, losing weight, making money. The 90-day reset focuses on the process of becoming the type of person who can achieve those outcomes. During these 90 days, we aren't just trying new things. We are collecting evidence for a new identity. Every day you show up for your 90-day commitment, you are casting a vote for the person you wish to become. If you want to be a writer, you don't need to publish a bestseller in 90 days. You just need to be the person who doesn't miss their writing sessions for 90 days. By the end of the quarter, the new you isn't a fantasy anymore. It's a fact supported by 90 days of evidence. Reflection. The 13-week contract. We must stop treating our lives like a movie where a montage solves everything in 3 minutes. Real change is boring. It's repetitive. It's often invisible for the first 60 days. This is where most people quit the valley of disappointment. You've been working hard for 6 weeks, and you don't see the new you in the mirror yet. You feel like a failure. But if you understand the 90-day cycle, you know that week 6 is exactly where you're supposed to be. You're in the middle of the thaw. The old habits are dying, but the new ones haven't fully blossomed. The question isn't whether you can change your life in 2026. The question is, can you commit to a single season? Can you give yourself 90 days of unreasonable consistency? Not perfection, just consistency. We are moving away from the new year, new me delusion, and toward a new quarter, new system reality. Because systems don't care about your feelings, and systems don't rely on the magic of a calendar date. Systems rely on the passage of time and the refusal to stop. Key takeaway: real transformation is a biological process that requires the Goldilocks zone of 90 days to bridge the gap between temporary willpower and permanent identity. But before we can build this new path, we have to look at what's currently blocking the road. And in 2026, the biggest obstacle isn't laziness, it's a hijacked brain. To move forward, we must first perform a dopamine audit. Chapter 2. The dopamine audit. If you were to walk into a construction site to build a skyscraper, but the ground was littered with landmines and the workers were half asleep, You wouldn't start pouring concrete. You would clear the field first. In the journey of a 90-day reset, your brain is the construction site. But for most of us entering 2026, our mental ground is saturated with the toxic runoff of a hyperstimulated world. Before we can talk about productivity, habits, or transformation, we have to talk about the chemical that runs your life, dopamine. We often hear dopamine described as the pleasure chemical, but that is a fundamental misunderstanding. Dopamine is the chemical of anticipation. It is the more molecule. It doesn't fire when you get what you want. It fires when you expect to get what you want. It is the drive that kept our ancestors searching for berries and hunting for prey. But in 2026, the world has learned how to weaponize that drive. From the infinite scroll of social media to the lightning-fast delivery of digital entertainment, we are living in a state of constant dopamine spikes. And when you live in a world of constant peaks, your baseline for what feels good begins to plummet. This is why your 90-day reset feels so hard. It's not that you're lazy. It's that your brain has been overclocked. When you are used to the 10 out of 10 stimulation of a viral video or a video game, the 2 out of 10 stimulation of reading a book or working on a business plan feels like physical pain. This chapter is about the dopamine audit, the essential process of clearing the noise so you can finally hear the signal of your own life. The biochemistry of boredom. To reclaim your life, you have to reclaim your ability to be bored. In the modern era, boredom has become an endangered species. We reach for our phones in the elevator, in the checkout line, and even in the bathroom. We have effectively deleted the white space from our lives. The problem is that creativity and deep reflection are born in that white space. When you never allow yourself to be bored, your brain never enters the default mode network, the state where it begins to synthesize ideas and solve complex problems. By constantly feeding the dopamine monster, you are keeping your brain in a reactive state. You are a consumer, not a creator. A dopamine audit isn't about becoming a monk or living in a cave. It's about downregulation. It's about intentionally lowering the ceiling of stimulation so that the floor of your daily life becomes more rewarding. When you stop the constant micro hits of digital distraction, your brain's receptors begin to heal. Slowly, the world starts to regain its color. A walk in the park starts to feel revitalizing again. A difficult task starts to feel like an engaging challenge rather than an impossible mountain. The 3 tiers of the audit. To perform a successful audit for your 90-day journey, we have to categorize our leaks. Think of your energy as a bucket. You can pour as much water effort as you want into it, but if the bucket is full of holes, you'll never get anywhere. Tier 1. The digital debris. This is the obvious stuff. The notifications that fragment your attention every 7 minutes. The suggested for you algorithms that steal 2 hours of your night. In this tier, the goal is friction. We need to make it harder to be distracted. Move your social media apps to the last page of your phone. Delete the ones you don't need. Turn off every notification that isn't from a human being trying to reach you. You are reclaiming the right of way for your own thoughts. Tier 2. The consumption to creation ratio. Look at how you spend your time. For every hour you spend consuming content, reading, watching, listening, are you spending at least 30 minutes creating or applying? Many of us fall into the productivity porn trap, watching videos about how to be productive instead of actually being productive. This gives us a false dopamine hit of achievement without any actual results. The audit requires you to balance the scales. If you haven't produced anything today, you haven't earned the right to consume. Tier 3. The social input. Who are the people filling your mental space? In 2026, this includes the digital people you follow. If your feed is full of people showing off lifestyles that make you feel inadequate, or outrage bait that makes you feel angry, you are voluntarily poisoning your dopamine baseline. You are triggering a stress response that demands a reward, usually junk food or more scrolling to cope. The audit means unfollowing anything that leaves you feeling less than or angry rather than inspired or informed. The boring advantage. There is a massive competitive advantage in 2026 for the person who can sit in a room alone for an hour with nothing but a notebook. Most people can't do it. Their brains are too fried. They are physically incapable of the sustained attention required for mastery. If you can use the first 2 weeks of your 90-day reset to perform this audit, you will find that your willpower suddenly seems to double. But it didn't actually double you, just stopped wasting it on resisting the siren calls of your devices. Imagine your brain is a radio. For years, you've been trying to listen to a faint, beautiful station, your goals and purpose, while 5 other stations are blasting heavy metal and static at full volume. The dopamine audit is the act of turning off those other stations. It's not that the music you want to hear got louder. It's that the environment finally got quiet enough for you to hear it. Reflection, reclaiming the long game. We have been conditioned to want the hack, the shortcut, and the instant result. But nature doesn't work in hacks. A 90-day reset is a commitment to the long game, and the long game requires a brain that can find satisfaction in the process, not just a prize. When you audit your dopamine, you are essentially telling your brain, we are no longer looking for the easy hit. We are looking for the deep satisfaction of work well done. This shift is painful at first. You will feel an itch. You will feel restless. You will reach for your pocket where your phone used to be. That itch is the feeling of your brain recalibrating. Don't fear it, welcome it. It is the sound of your construction site being cleared of mines. As you move through these 90 days, remember that your attention is the most valuable currency you own. Every company on earth is spending billions of dollars trying to steal it from you. When you perform a dopamine audit, you are performing an act of rebellion. You are saying that your goals for 2026 are more important than an advertiser's quarterly earnings. You are taking back the throne of your own mind. Key takeaway: you cannot build a new life with a hijacked brain. By intentionally lowering your baseline of stimulation through a dopamine audit, you reclaim the focus necessary to sustain a 90-day transformation. Once the field is cleared and your brain is recalibrated, we need a strategy to keep from being overwhelmed. We don't just do 90 days all at once. We break them down into Chapter 3, The Power of Micros. One of the most common reasons people fail in their 90-day ambitions is that they view 90 days as a single, monolithic block of time. They see it as a vast, unchanging desert they have to cross. But the human brain isn't designed for indefinite endurance. It's designed for intervals. We are rhythmic creatures. We operate on cardiac rhythms, circadian rhythms, and even ultradian rhythms. To succeed over 3 months, we must stop trying to maintain a steady state and start embracing the concept of The 90-day reset is not one long race. It is 3 distinct, 30-day mini lives, each with its own psychological atmosphere, its own set of challenges, and its own specific goal. If you try to carry the intensity of day 1 into day 60, you will snap. But if you treat each month as a separate micro-sprint, you allow for the psychological reset that keeps motivation fresh. This is the 30-30-30 framework. Phase 1, the shock days 1 to 30. The first 30 days are about correction. This is the phase where you are fighting the gravitational pull of your old life. In the world of physics, a rocket uses the vast majority of its fuel just to clear the first few miles of the Earth's atmosphere. Once it's in orbit, it requires very little energy to keep moving. Your first 30 days are your atmospheric escape. During this sprint, the goal isn't mastery, it's compliance. You are essentially a stranger in a new land. Everything feels awkward. You are waking up at 5 a.m., and every cell in your body is asking why. You are sitting down to write, and the blank page feels like an indictment of your soul. This phase is characterized by high cognitive load. Because the habits aren't automatic yet, you have to use conscious willpower for every single action. The secret to surviving the shock phase is to lower your expectations of quality and raise your expectations of presence. Don't worry if your workout was mediocre or if your business plan looks like a child wrote it. The only thing that matters in the first 30 days is that you showed up. You are teaching your nervous system that the new rules are non-negotiable. Phase 2, the acclimatization days, 31 to 60. If the first month is a battle, the second month is a test of boredom. This is where most people quit, not because it's too hard, but because it's no longer new. The novelty has worn off. The fresh start effect we discussed in Chapter 1 has evaporated. You've been doing the work for a month, and while you might see some small results, the new you hasn't fully materialized yet. This is what researchers call the midpoint slump. When we are at the beginning of a goal, we are motivated by the excitement of starting. When we are at the end, we are motivated by the proximity of the finish line. But in the middle, we are in no man's land. You're too far from the start to feel the spark, and too far from the end to smell the victory. The acclimatization sprint is about systematization. This is where you stop thinking about the 90-day goal and start obsessing over the daily minimum. You turn your focus inward. You aren't looking at the mountain peak anymore. You are looking at your boots. In this phase, we use habit stacking and visual tracking like crossing off days on a calendar to provide the artificial dopamine that the brain craves. You survive phase 2 by making the process itself the prize. Phase 3, the integration days 61 to 90. The final 30 days are where the magic happens. This is the harvest. By day 61, something miraculous begins to occur. The new behaviors start to feel heavy if you don't do them. The neural pathways we discussed earlier are now paved and open for traffic. In the integration phase, the focus shifts from "how do I do this" to "how do I optimize this?" This is where you begin to see the compound effect. The small, seemingly insignificant 1% gains you've been making for 60 days finally start to stack on top of each other. This is usually when the external world starts to notice your change. Your body looks different. Your bank account looks different, or your level of calm is visibly higher. But the real goal of the final sprint is permanence. You are no longer doing a 90-day challenge. You are living your new standards. You use these final days to stress test your systems. What happens if you travel? What happens if you get sick? You learn how to maintain your 90-day progress even when life gets messy. You are preparing to turn the reset into a lifestyle. The psychology of the reset button. The reason microsprints work so well is that they provide a reset button every 30 days. If you had a terrible month, if you missed half your workouts and spent too much time scrolling, you don't have to throw away the whole 90-day project. You simply wait for day 31 and start a new sprint. This prevents the what the heck effect. This is a psychological phenomenon where, if we slip up once, like eating one cookie on a diet, we say, "What the heck, the day is ruined anyway," and proceed to eat the whole bag. By breaking 90 days into 3 30-day sprints, we create psychological firewalls. A failure in one sprint doesn't have to burn down the next one. Reflection, the 13-week rhythm. By the time you finish this chapter, I want you to look at your calendar not as a sea of 90 empty boxes, but as 3 distinct chapters of a story. Month 1 is the hero's journey, where you leave the village and enter the dark forest. It's supposed to be scary and hard. Month 2 is the training montage, where you do the repetitive, grueling work when no one is watching. Month 3 is the final battle, where you prove that you have truly changed. When you view time this way, you give your brain what it needs most. Narrative arc. We don't just want to be better. We want to feel like we are becoming something. Microsprints turn the abstract concept of self-improvement into a concrete, winnable game. Don't ask yourself if you can change for 90 days. Ask yourself, can you survive the shock for the next 4 weeks? Can you commit to just one chapter? Because once you finish the first chapter, the momentum will make the second one easier, and the second will make the third inevitable. Key takeaway: 90 days is a marathon that must be run as 3 distinct 30-day sprints. By segmenting your transformation, you prevent burnout and create psychological fresh starts that sustain momentum through the midpoint slump. But even the best laid plans for a microsprint will fail if you are constantly fighting your inks. If you want to make these 90 days effortless, you have to move from willpower to environment design. Chapter 4: Radical Environment Design. If you take a healthy, vibrant plant and place it in a dark closet without water, it will wither and die. It doesn't matter how much potential the plant has. Its environment dictates its reality. We, as humans, like to believe we are different. We believe we are the masters of our fate, steered by the invisible rudder of our willpower. We tell ourselves that if we just want it enough, we can overcome any obstacle. But 2026 is a masterclass in the failure of willpower. We are surrounded by trillion-dollar industries whose entire business model is to break your resolve. The snack aisle is engineered to bypass your satiety signals. Your smartphone is designed to keep you scrolling long after your eyes ache. In this landscape, relying on willpower is like trying to swim upstream against a waterfall. Eventually, you will tire. Eventually, the waterfall wins. The 90-day reset introduces a concept that feels like a superpower: environment design. This is the art of choice architecture. It is the realization that if you want to change your behavior, you don't change the person, you change the room the person is standing in. You stop fighting yourself and start rearranging the world so that the right choice is the only choice available. The invisible script of your surroundings. Every room you enter has an invisible script. When you walk into a kitchen and see a bowl of fruit on the counter, the script says, "Eat an apple." When you walk into a living room where the furniture is all pointed at a giant black screen, the script says, "Watch TV." Most of us are living in environments scripted by our past failures or by companies that want our money. During these 90 days, your job is to become the lead architect of your own life. We call this friction management. Humans are fundamentally energy efficient, which is just a nice way of saying we are lazy. We will almost always take the path of least resistance. Environment design is simply the process of adding friction to the habits you want to break and removing friction from the habits you want to build. Designing for the default. Imagine you want to start a habit of drinking more water and less soda. The willpower approach. You keep soda in the fridge and tell yourself, "I will be strong today." Every time you open that door, you have to have a mini argument with your lizard brain. You might win 10 times, but on the 11th time when you're tired, stressed, or hungry, you lose. The environment design approach. You stop buying soda entirely. You place a beautiful glass pitcher of filtered water with a slice of lemon right in the center of the fridge at eye level. In the second scenario, you haven't become stronger. You've simply made the healthy choice, the default choice. By the time you've put on your shoes to drive to the store for a soda, your thirst is already gone because the water was right there. You didn't use willpower. You used logistics. For your 90-day journey, apply this to every pillar of your reset. If you want to write every morning, leave your laptop open on your desk with the document already loaded before you go to bed. If you want to exercise, put your gym clothes on top of your alarm clock. If you want to stop scrolling at night, charge your phone in the kitchen, not next to your bed. You are essentially pre-deciding your future actions. The nudge and the wall. There are two levels to environment design: the nudge and the wall. The nudge is a gentle suggestion. It's the book placed on your pillow so you read before bed. It's the healthy snacks placed in clear glass jars, while the less healthy ones are tucked away in an opaque bin on a high shelf. Nudges work by influencing your subconscious. They make the good path feel more inviting. The wall, however, is for your most dangerous triggers. A wall is a hard boundary that makes a bad habit physically impossible or socially painful. This might mean using an app blocker that completely locks you out of social media after 8 p.m. It might mean giving a friend $500 and telling them, "If I don't send you a screenshot of my finished work by Friday, you keep the money." Walls are for the areas where you know your willpower is non-existent. The social environment, the who of change. We often think of environment as physical space, walls, desks, and refrigerators. But your most influential environment is relational. You are a social animal. Your brain is hardwired to mimic the behaviors of the tribe to ensure belonging. This is why it is nearly impossible to stay sober in a bar or stay productive in a group of people who only want to complain about their jobs. In 2026, your tribe isn't just the people you sit with at lunch. It's the people you sit with on your digital feeds. If your 90-day goal is to build a business, but your 5 closest friends spend their weekends escaping life through distractions, you are fighting a social gravity that will eventually pull you down. You don't necessarily have to fire your friends, but you do need to find an ambient environment of success. Join a community of people who are also in a 90-day reset. Listen to podcasts of people who have already achieved what you want. Fill your ears and eyes with the language of the person you are becoming, not the person you were. The sacred space technique. One of the most powerful moves you can make in these 90 days is to designate a sacred space for your most important work. Your brain is a master of association. If you try to work on your laptop while sitting on your bed, your brain gets confused. Is this where we sleep? Is this where we watch Netflix? Is this where we work? Because of this confusion, you'll likely feel sleepy or distracted. Create one corner even, if it's just one specific chair at a coffee shop where you only do your 90-day high-focus work. No phone, no social media, no snacking. Over time, that physical location becomes a psychological trigger. The moment you sit in that chair, your brain recognizes the script and automatically slides into a state of focus. You aren't forcing focus. The environment is demanding it. Reflection, becoming the architect. We spend so much of our lives reacting to the world. We react to the ping of the phone. We react to the dirt in the break room. We react to the negativity of the news. This 90-day reset is your chance to stop being a reactor and start being a creator. Look around your room right now. What is it telling you to do? Is your desk cluttered, telling you that your mind should be cluttered too? Is your phone sitting within arm's reach, telling you that your attention is for sale? Environment design is an act of self-love. It is admitting that you are human, that you are sometimes weak, and that you deserve a world that helps you succeed instead of one that profits from your failure. When you fix the environment, you fix the person. The new you isn't someone who suddenly has iron will. The new you is someone who was smart enough to stop bringing the old you's triggers into the house. Key takeaway: willpower is a finite resource that fails under stress. By proactively designing your physical and social environments to favor your goals, you make success an automated byproduct of your surroundings rather than a daily struggle. Once you have designed a world that supports your growth, it's time to address the internal world. We must shift from the what of your actions to the who of your identity. We are moving from doing to being. Chapter 5. The Identity Shift. From doing to being. We often approach change as if we are trying to install a new piece of software on an old computer. We want the Productivity 2.0 update or the Fitness 3.0 patch, but we try to run them on an operating system built for procrastination and self-doubt. This is why the 90-day mark is so critical. It isn't just about the work you complete. It is about the internal OS upgrade that happens when your brain realizes that your actions and your identity have finally aligned. In psychology, there is a concept known as cognitive dissonance. This is the mental discomfort we feel when our actions don't match our beliefs about ourselves. If you believe you are a lazy person, but you force yourself to go to the gym, your brain feels a strange friction. It wants to resolve that tension. Usually, it does this by making you stop the uncomfortable behavior so you can go back to being the lazy person you've always known. To succeed in this 90-day reset, we have to flip the script. We have to change the belief so the behavior becomes the natural resolution. The layers of change. To understand the shift from doing to being, we have to look at the 3 layers of behavior change. The outermost layer is outcomes. This is what most people focus on. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to make $10,000. I want to write a book. This is the what. While outcomes are great for direction, they are terrible for daily motivation because they are often out of your immediate control. The second layer is process. This is the how. I will go to the gym 4 times a week. I will cold call 10 clients a day. Most productivity systems live here. They focus on the systems and habits. This is a massive improvement over focusing on outcomes, but it still lacks a soul. It feels like a chore. The innermost layer, the core, is identity. This is the who. This isn't about what you want to achieve. It's about who you believe you are. When you change your identity, you are no longer trying to do something. You are simply acting in accordance with who you are. A runner doesn't try to go for a run. They just run, because that's what a runner does. The evidence-based identity. You cannot just think yourself into a new identity. You cannot stand in front of a mirror and shout affirmations until you believe you are a millionaire. The brain is too smart for that. It requires proof. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. If you want to be a healthy person, every time you choose a salad over a burger, you are casting a vote. If you want to be a writer, every time you sit down for 15 minutes to type, you are casting a vote. The beauty of the 90-day time frame is that it provides enough time to build a winning margin. In the first 30 days, the old you still has the majority of the votes. You feel like a fraud. But as you move into the second and third months, the stack of votes for the new you grows higher. Eventually, the evidence becomes undeniable. Your brain looks at the data and says, well, I've worked out 45 times in the last 60 days. I guess I am a person who exercises. This is the moment the reset becomes permanent. The friction disappears because the behavior is now egocentric. It aligns with your sense of self, the locus of control. A major part of this identity shift involves moving your locus of control. People with an external locus of control believe that life happens to them. They are victims of the economy, their boss, their genetics, or the weather. If they fail their 90-day reset, it's because life got in the way. People with an internal locus of control believe they are the primary architects of their lives. They recognize that while they cannot control the wind, they can always adjust the sails. During these 90 days, we practice radical responsibility. When a challenge arises, the being mindset doesn't ask, why is this happening to me? It asks, what does the person I am becoming do in this situation? This simple shift in language removes the victim identity and replaces it with the agent identity. You are no longer a passenger in your own life. You are the pilot. The identity anchor technique. How do we practically apply this? We use identity anchors. This is the practice of linking a new identity to an existing, non-negotiable part of your life. For example, instead of saying, I will meditate for 10 minutes, you say, I am a mindful person, and mindful people take 10 minutes of silence after their morning coffee. You are anchoring the who to a when. Another powerful anchor is the what would X do technique. Pick a person, real or fictional, who embodies the identity you want. When you face a moment of weakness, ask yourself, what would a master narrative storyteller do right now? Or a CEO, or an athlete? By stepping into that persona, you create a psychological distance from your current impulses. You are trying on the identity until it fits like a second skin. The danger of the secret self. We often keep our 90-day goals a secret because we are afraid of the shame of failing. But there is a psychological cost to this. By keeping it a secret, you are telling your subconscious that you don't really believe this change is going to stick. You are leaving the back door open so you can slip back into your old life without anyone noticing. The identity shift requires public commitment, not necessarily to the whole world, but to a small accountability circle. When you tell someone, I am currently in a 90-day period of deep work and health, you are making a social claim. Your desire to be seen as consistent by others becomes a powerful engine that drives your identity forward. You start acting the part because you don't want to lose face. Eventually, the act becomes reality. Reflection, the butterfly's perspective. There is a common metaphor about the caterpillar and the butterfly. The caterpillar doesn't just grow wings, it enters a cocoon, dissolves completely into a genomic soup, and reorganizes itself into a completely different creature with a completely different set of capabilities. Your 90-day reset is your cocoon. In the beginning, you are the caterpillar, limited, slow-moving, and focused on consumption. As you move through the chapters of this book, you are dissolving the old habits and structures that no longer serve you. It is a messy, uncomfortable process. There are days when you will feel like you are neither a caterpillar nor a butterfly, just a soup of potential and confusion. But by day 90, the reorganization is complete. You don't just do things differently, you see the world differently. You no longer see a daunting task, you see an opportunity for mastery. You no longer see temptation, you see noise. The goal of 2026 isn't to be a better version of the person who failed in 2025. The goal is to be a different person entirely. One who operates from a core of discipline, clarity, and key takeaway. Lasting change is not a result of what you do, but of who you believe you are. Use the 90-day window to accumulate evidence for a new identity. Shifting from trying to improve to acting according to your new standards. But even with a new identity, life will eventually throw a punch. You will get sick. You will have a family emergency. or you will simply have a bad day. To survive the full 90 days, we need a plan for when things go wrong. We need the failure protocol. Chapter 6, the failure protocol. We need to have an honest conversation about the day 45 problem. In every 90-day journey, there is a day usually somewhere in the middle where the wheels fall off. Maybe you woke up with a crushing headache. Maybe a deadline at work exploded, and you stayed up until 3 a.m. eating cold pizza and answering emails. Maybe you just felt nothing, no motivation, no identity shift, just a profound desire to stay in bed and let the world pass you by. Most people treat this moment as a terminal diagnosis. They see a single broken day as a sign that the entire 90-day reset was a lie. They think, well, I've ruined my streak. I might as well give up and try again next year. This is the perfectionist's paradox. By setting the bar at 100%, anything less than perfect becomes a zero. The give yourself 90 days philosophy rejects this. In fact, it assumes you will fail. It builds failure into the system. We don't need iron will. We need a failure protocol. This is a pre-written script for how you handle the inevitable human moments of your journey. It is the difference between a minor stumble and a total collapse. The never miss twice rule. The most powerful weapon in your failure protocol is a simple mental heuristic. Never miss twice. If you miss a workout, it's a mistake. If you miss 2 workouts in a row, it's the start of a new habit. 1 mistake is an anomaly. 2 mistakes is a pattern. By focusing solely on the next action, you prevent the psychological spiral of shame. In 2026, we are obsessed with streaks. The little fire icons on our apps that tell us how many days in a row we've done something. While streaks are great for the first 20 days, they become incredibly fragile. The longer the streak, the more devastating the break feels. The never miss twice rule shifts your focus from the length of the chain to the strength of the individual links. It allows you to be human without being a quitter. Implementation intentions, the if-then strategy. The best way to handle a crisis is to decide what you will do before the crisis happens. This is a psychological technique known as implementation intentions. You create a series of if-then statements for your most likely failure points. If I have to stay late at the office and miss my gym session, then I will do 20 minutes of bodyweight exercises at home before I turn on the TV. If I am at a social event and there are no healthy food options, then I will eat a small portion and drink 2 glasses of water to stay satiated. If I wake up feeling completely unmotivated to write, then I will commit to writing just 1 sentence. These aren't plan Bs. They are contingency bridges. They ensure that even when you can't give 100%, you still give 1%. In the math of the 90-day reset, 1% is infinitely better than 0%, because 1% keeps the identity alive. The person who does 1 push-up is still a person who exercises. The person who does 0 is a person who has quit. Radical compassion versus radical accountability. There is a delicate balance to strike during a failure. Many of us swing between 2 extremes. We are either too soft on ourselves, it's okay, I deserve a break, I'll start again next month, or we are brutally self-critical. I'm a failure. I never stick to anything. I'm useless. Neither of these approaches works. Radical compassion is not about making excuses. It's about acknowledging that shame is a terrible fuel for change. When you shame yourself, you trigger a stress response. And what do we do when we are stressed? We go back to our old comfort habits, scrolling, eating, procrastinating. To stop the cycle, you must forgive yourself quickly. However, compassion must be paired with radical accountability. This means looking at the failure like a scientist, not a judge. Instead of asking what is wrong with me, you ask, what was the specific trigger that led to this slip? Was it an environmental issue, Chapter 4, or a dopamine issue, Chapter 2? How can I adjust my environment design to make this failure harder to repeat? Failure is just data. It's the world giving you feedback on your systems. If you forgot to write because your phone was next to you, the data says, the phone is a wall-level distraction. You don't need a better personality. You need a better desk. The rescue mission mindset. Sometimes, the failure isn't just a missed day. Sometimes, life hits you with a black swan event, a breakup, an illness, or a financial shock that knocks you off course for an entire week. When this happens, you need a rescue mission. You don't try to catch up by doing double the work. If you missed 5 days of writing, don't try to write 5,000 words on Saturday. That is a recipe for a second failure. Instead, you perform a soft restart. You lower the bar to the absolute floor for 3 days just to get the momentum back. You do the minimum viable action. Your goal isn't to be productive. It's to prove to your brain that the 90-day version of you is still in the room. You are protecting the identity, not the output. The psychology of the dip. Author Seth Godin speaks about the dip, the long, hard slog between starting something and mastering it. Most people quit in the dip because they confuse the pain of growth with the pain of failure. In your 90-day journey, the moments of failure are often where the most growth happens. Why? Because anyone can stay disciplined when they feel good. Anyone can go to the gym when they are motivated. But the person who gets back on track after a failure is building a type of psychological callus. You are proving to yourself that you are anti-fragile, that you actually get stronger when things get messy. Reflection. The kintsugi life. There is a Japanese art form called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold. Instead of trying to hide the cracks, the artist highlights them. The piece is considered more beautiful and valuable because it has been broken and repaired. Your 90-day reset will not be a perfect, unbroken line of success. It will have cracks. It will have days where you were weak, days where you were tired, and days where you failed. But if you apply the failure protocol, if you use the never miss twice rule, and if then bridges those cracks become the gold in your story. They are the proof that you didn't just have a good run, but that you actually learned how to survive. The new you isn't a person who never falls. The new you is the person who has lost the ability to stay down. Key takeaway. Failure is an inevitable part of the 90-day cycle. By replacing shame with a failure protocol and the never miss twice rule, you turn setbacks into data points and ensure that one bad day doesn't become a bad month. Now that we know how to survive the low points, we need to maximize the high points. It's time to move into the work phase. To make the most of your 90 days, you must master the art of cognitive deep work. Chapter 7. Cognitive Deep Work and Flow. In the economy of 2026, the most valuable skill you can possess isn't technical knowledge, it's the ability to focus. Knowledge is now a commodity, accessible in seconds through an AI prompt or a search engine. But the ability to sit with a complex problem, to synthesize disparate ideas, and to produce high-value output in a state of undistracted concentration, that is becoming increasingly rare. It is the superpower of the 21st century. As you move into the final third of your 90-day reset, the mindset work must translate into market work. You have audited your dopamine Chapter 2, designed your environment Chapter 4, and anchored your identity Chapter 5. Now, you must learn how to use your brain as a high-precision instrument. We call this cognitive deep work, the shallow work trap. Most people spend their days in a state of continuous partial attention. They are answering emails while half listening to a podcast. They are working on a report while their phone sits face up on the desk, pulsing with notifications. This is shallow work. It feels busy, and it might even be exhausting, but it doesn't move the needle. Shallow work keeps you on a treadmill. Lots of movement, zero distance covered. Deep work, a term coined by Cal Newport, is the opposite. It is professional activity performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that pushes your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. In your 90-day reset, 1 hour of deep work is worth 10 hours of shallow work. The neurochemistry of flow. When you commit to deep work, you are essentially trying to trigger a flow state. This is a psychological state where you become so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The self vanishes, time flies, and every action, every decision leads fluidly to the next. From a neurochemical perspective, flow is a cocktail of dopamine, norepinephrine, endorphins, and serotonin. It is the peak human experience of performance. But flow has a barrier to entry. It typically takes about 15 to 20 minutes of intense undivided concentration, just to reach the on-ramp of flow. If you check your phone every 10 minutes, you are resetting that 20-minute timer every single time. You spend your whole day in the struggle phase of concentration without ever reaching the release phase of flow. This is why you feel drained but unproductive. You are paying the switching cost of multitasking without ever getting the flow dividend. The deep work hour protocol. To master this during your 90 days, you don't need to work 16 hours a day. You need a monastic block. For most people, 2 hours of true deep work is enough to outperform 90% of their peers. The pre-flight ritual. Just as a pilot goes through a checklist before takeoff, you need a ritual that signals to your brain that deep work has begun. This might be putting on noise-canceling headphones, clearing your desk of everything except one notebook, or making a specific type of tea. The digital Faraday cage. Put your phone in another room, not just face down another room. Close every tab on your computer that isn't essential to the task. Use a website blocker. You are creating a sanctuary for your mind. The single objective. Deep work is not for clearing your inbox. It is for the big rocks. Before you start, define one and only one outcome for the session. Write 1,000 words. Debug the core algorithm, or outline the marketing strategy. The shutdown ritual. When the session is over, you must close the loops. Write down where you left off and what the very first step will be tomorrow. This prevents attention residue, the tendency for your brain to keep worrying about work while you're trying to rest. The 90-day accumulation of mastery. Imagine if you committed to just 90 minutes of deep work every morning for the duration of this reset. By day 90, you would have logged 135 hours of high-intensity, focused output in a world where the average person is distracted every 3 minutes. 135 hours of deep work is enough to write a book, build a functional software prototype, or learn a new language to a conversational level. The compound effect we discussed earlier doesn't just apply to habits. It applies to skills. While everyone else is looking for hacks to get 5% more efficient, you are playing a different game. You are building a brain that can do things their brains can no longer do. You are becoming a cognitive athlete, protecting the asset, rest, and decompression. A common mistake in the 90-day journey is thinking that more work always equals more results. But cognitive energy is like a battery. If you never let it recharge, it loses its capacity to hold a charge. Deep work is incredibly demanding. You cannot do it for 8 hours a day. True masters of focus understand the oscillation between intense work and intense rest. This is why downtime is not a luxury. It is a requirement. During your reset, your evenings should be digital sunsets. No work emails, no high-stimulus screens, no complex problem solving. This allows your brain to enter the consolidation phase, where it processes what you learned during the day and prepares for tomorrow. If you don't rest, your next deep work session will be shallow work in disguise. Reflection. The quiet rebellion. In 2026, choosing to focus is a revolutionary act. Everything in the modern economy is designed to keep you fragmented, reactive, and tired. When you carve out space for deep work, you are reclaiming your sovereignty. You are saying, I am the one who decides what is worth my attention. This chapter is the bridge of your 90 days. It takes all the internal mindset shifts and turns them into external reality. It is where your potential meets the world. Don't worry if your first few deep work sessions feel like a disaster. Your brain is out of shape. It will itch, it will wander, and it will beg for a distraction. Sit with it. Breathe through it. Every time you pull your attention back to the task, you are performing a mental rep. You are getting stronger. By the end of these 90 days, you won't just have better results. You will have a better mind. Key takeaway. The ability to perform deep work is the ultimate competitive advantage in a distracted world. By creating protected blocks of time for focused output and respecting the need for rest, you turn your 90-day reset into a masterclass in skill acquisition, transition. But no matter how focused you are, your growth is still influenced by the gravity of the people around you. To ensure your 90-day evolution sticks, you must apply the social filter. Chapter 8. The social filter. We like to think of ourselves as independent islands of willpower, but the truth is far more humbling. We are social chameleons. Our brains are equipped with mirror neurons designed to help us blend in with our tribe for survival. This means that, on a subconscious level, you are constantly scanning the people around you to figure out what is normal. If your social circle considers it normal to complain about work, eat poorly, and spend 4 hours a night on TikTok, your brain will interpret your 90-day reset not as growth, but as a threat to your social belonging. In this chapter of the 90-day journey, we address the social gravity that often pulls people back to their old selves, just as they are starting to gain momentum. To finish these 90 days strong, you must move beyond the physical environment design of Chapter 4 and into the realm of relational architecture. You need to apply a social filter. The law of averages and the crab mentality. You've likely heard the quote by Jim Rohn. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. In 2026, we have to expand that definition. Your 5 people now include the influencers you follow, the podcasters you listen to, and the group chats you participate in. When you start to change, it often creates an unspoken tension in your existing relationships. This is known as the crab mentality. If you put a single crab in a bucket, it will easily climb out. But if you fill the bucket with crabs, the moment one tries to climb to the top, the others will reach up and pull it back down. They aren't doing this because they are evil. They are doing it because your growth acts as a mirror to their own stagnation. When you say I'm doing a 90-day reset, what they hear is I'm judging the way you currently live. Applying the social filter isn't about being cold or firing your friends. It's about intentional distance. It's about recognizing which relationships are green light, those who inspire and support your 90-day identity, and which are red light, those who constantly tempt you back into the old you habits. The accountability mirror. To counter the downward pull of the crabs, you need to find an accountability mirror. This is a person or a group who doesn't just cheer for you, but reflects the truth back to you. A true accountability partner doesn't accept your excuses. If you tell them you missed your deep work session, Chapter 7, because you were tired, they don't say it's okay. You deserve a rest. They say, you told me you were a person who finishes their work. Was that a lie? This sounds harsh, but it is the highest form of social support. It reinforces your identity shift. Chapter 5. During these 90 days, you should seek out at least one high-challenge, high-support individual. This could be a mentor, a coach, or a peer who is also in the middle of their own 90-day sprint. When you know someone is looking at your votes for your new identity, you are far less likely to cast a vote for the old one. The digital tribe, curating your feed. In the 2026 landscape, your social filter must extend to your pocket. Every time you open an app, you are inviting a digital tribe into your headspace. If your social media feed is a collection of outrage, celebrity gossip, or people showing off curated perfection, you are voluntarily lowering your vibration. The 90-day rule for digital social circles is selective ignorance. You must ruthlessly unfollow or mute anyone who triggers a sense of FOMO, fear of missing out, or inadequacy. Replace them with digital mentors. People who are 3 steps ahead of you in the journey you are taking. If you want to master focus, follow the monks and the deep work specialists. If you want to build a business, follow the builders. By saturating your visual field with people for whom your impossible goals are simply standard procedure, you trick your brain into thinking that your 90-day reset is the most normal thing in the world. The silent transition strategy. A common mistake is announcing your 90-day reset to everyone you know. While public commitment can work as mentioned in Chapter 5, it often backfires if you tell the wrong people. When you announce a big change, you get a premature dopamine hit of achievement without having done the work. Plus, you invite the crabs to start pulling you down before you've even reached the rim of the bucket. The more effective way to apply the social filter is the silent transition. Don't talk about what you are doing. Just do it. Let your results do the talking. When your friends ask why you aren't out late on a Tuesday, don't give a speech about your mindset reset. Just say, I've got a big project I'm excited to work on tomorrow morning. By moving in silence, you protect the new you while it is still fragile. You only share your progress with the people who have earned a seat at your table, the ones who will actually help you carry the weight. Reflection. The quality of your echo. We are essentially social tuning forks. If you strike a tuning fork and place it near another one of the same frequency, the second one will start to vibrate without even being touched. This is called sympathetic resonance. Who are the tuning forks in your life? When you spend time with them, do you leave feeling energized, clear-headed, and motivated? Or do you leave feeling heavy, cynical, and distracted? The 90-day reset is a period of intense personal recalibration. You are trying to find a new frequency. To do that, you have to be very careful about the echoes you allow into your life. You are not being elitist by choosing your company wisely. You are being a steward of your own potential. The people who truly love you will understand your need for space and focus. The people who don't, well, they were never really part of the new you anyway. Key takeaway: your social environment acts as a thermostat for your potential. By filtering out crab mentality influences and surrounding yourself with accountability mirrors and digital mentors, you align your social gravity with your 90-day goals. With your internal mind and your external world now fully aligned, it's time to move into the final phase of the journey. We must learn the art of reflection to ensure that these 90 days aren't just a flash in the pan, but a permanent foundation for the rest of 2026. Chapter 9. Reflection and the Compound Effect. We have reached the final stretch. By the time you enter the third month of your 90-day cycle, you are no longer the person who started. The friction has lessened. The shock of the first 30 days is a distant memory, and your new identity has begun to solidify. But there is a final trap waiting at the finish line: the belief that the work is done. In the world of high performance, the end of a cycle is actually the most critical moment. This is where we move from practice to permanence. To ensure that this reset isn't just a 90-day spike followed by a lifelong plateau, we must master the art of the weekly review and understand the mathematical beauty of the compound effect. The power of 1% gains. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day but underestimate what they can do in 90 days. We are obsessed with the quantum leap, the big break, the viral moment, the sudden windfall. But real, sustainable change is built on the back of the 1% rule. If you get just 1% better at a specific skill or habit every day, you don't just get 90% better by the end of this reset. Because of the way habits stack, you actually end up significantly more capable than when you started. This is the flywheel effect. In the beginning, it takes an enormous amount of effort to get the heavy stone wheel to move even an inch. But as you keep pushing, the weight of the wheel starts to work for you. By day 90, the wheel is spinning with such momentum that it would take a massive counterforce to stop it. This chapter is about learning how to keep the wheel spinning. We do this through data-driven reflection. You cannot manage what you do not measure. The Sunday script, the weekly review. During your reset, you should have treated every Sunday as a pit stop. Just as a Formula One car pulls off the track to change tires and refuel, you need a dedicated time to look at the telemetry of your life. A master-level reflection consists of 3 questions. What went right? We often ignore our wins because we are so focused on the next mountain. By acknowledging your successes, you provide the identity proof. Chapter 5. Your brain needs to keep going. What went wrong? Using the failure protocol from Chapter 6, you look at your slips not as moral failings, but as system errors. What is the lead domino for next week? If you could only accomplish one thing next week that would make everything else easier or unnecessary, what would it be? This reflection prevents you from drifting. It ensures that you are still the architect of your environment. Chapter 4, rather than a passenger in a chaotic week. Transitioning from challenge to standard. The most dangerous day of a 90-day reset is day 91. This is when the challenge officially ends. If you have been treating this journey as a temporary sprint to reach a finish line, you will likely experience a post-goal collapse. You see this in marathon runners who stop exercising the day after the race, or students who forget everything the moment the exam is over. To avoid this, you must shift your vocabulary. On day 90, you don't say, "I finished the challenge." You say, "I have established my new standards." The behaviors that felt like extra credit in month 1 must now feel like the bare minimum for the rest of 2026. This is why we focused so heavily on identity. A challenge is something you do. A standard is who you are. You don't try to meet your standards. You simply refuse to fall below them. The seasonal review. As the 90 days close, take a full day for a seasonal review. Look back at the dopamine audit you performed in Chapter 2. Look at the deep work hours you logged in Chapter 7. How has your baseline level of calm changed? How has your relationship with boredom evolved? Who are you now that you weren't 3 months ago? The goal of this reflection is to realize that you have developed a capacity for change. Even if you didn't hit every single one of your outcomes, you have proven to yourself that you can take the steering wheel of your own biology and psychology. That realization is more valuable than any bank balance or weight loss goal. It is the gift of self-efficacy, reflection, the infinite game. In his book, Finite and Infinite Games, James Cars explains that a finite game is played for the purpose of winning, like a 90-day challenge. But an infinite game is played for the purpose of continuing the play. Your life is an infinite game. This 90-day reset was never about winning 2026. It was about upgrading your ability to play the game of life with more skill, more presence, and more joy. As you look toward the next quarter, don't feel the need to start another intense sprint immediately. Sometimes, the next 90 days should be a season of maintenance or exploration. The beauty of the 90-day mindset is that it gives you 4 lives every year. For chances to reset, for chances to pivot, and for chances to grow. You have done the hard work of the thaw. Now, it's time to see what you can build in the sunlight. Key takeaway: reflection is the glue that turns temporary effort into permanent wisdom. By using the 1% rule and weekly reviews, you ensure that your 90-day progress becomes the new baseline for your future self. We have traveled through the mind, the environment, the identity, and the work. Now, it is time to bring this journey to a close. Let's look at the big picture of what you have truly accomplished. Conclusion: the infinite game of becoming. We have reached the end of this 90-day blueprint, but in the grander narrative of your life, this is not a finale, it is a foundation. We began this journey by dismantling the myth of the new you, the dangerous idea that a change in the calendar could magically fix a hijacked brain. We learned that transformation isn't a lightning bolt, it's a slow, methodical thaw. Over the course of these chapters, we have essentially rebuilt your psychological operating system from the ground up. You didn't just try harder. You audited your dopamine to reclaim your focus. You designed an environment that made your success inevitable rather than accidental. You shifted your identity from someone who wants to someone who is. You mastered the deep work that the modern world has largely forgotten, and you built a social filter to protect your growing potential. The deeper message: if there is one truth to carry forward from Give Yourself 90 Days, it is this: you are not a finished product. You are a work of active architecture. In a world that benefits from your distraction and profits from your insecurities, choosing to give yourself 90 days of focused attention is a radical act of self-sovereignty. It is a declaration that your life is not something that happens to you, but something that is authored by you. The real magic of the 90-day window isn't the weight lost or the money made, though. Those things often follow. The magic is the psychological evidence you've collected. You now know, with absolute certainty, that you have the power to change your own biology. You have proven that you can survive the shock, endure the boredom, and reap the harvest. Practical principles for the path ahead as you step out of this 90-day reset and into the rest of 2026. Take these 4 principles with you. The law of the minimum viable action. On your worst days, don't quit. Just lower the bar. 1 minute of meditation or 1 sentence of writing keeps the identity alive. Friction is your greatest tool. If you want to stop a behavior, make it difficult. If you want to start one, make it effortless. The 1% compounding rule. Stop looking for the big break. Look for the small, boring 1% improvements. In the long run, they are the only things that matter. Protect your attention. In the economy of 2026, your focus is your most valuable asset. Treat it like gold. Final reflection. The Japanese have a concept called Kaizen, the philosophy of continuous, incremental improvement. It suggests that there is no end state to excellence. There is only the process. You have given yourself 90 days. You have proven what is possible when you align your environment with your intentions. Now, as the sun sets on this quarter, ask yourself, if I can do this in 90 days, who could I become in a year? Who could I become in a decade? The mountain you were standing at the base of back in January hasn't changed, but your legs are stronger, your vision is clearer, and you finally have a map. The next 90 days are waiting. What will you do with them?